Welcome back to episode number 8 of Off the Rip. You're with your host, which is me, Dylan Tarmey. Okay, people, it's been a bit of a break. So the last 2 episodes that I had, I batch recorded because I was actually on vacation. I took a holiday for 2 weeks. Can you believe it? That's 14 days, people. That's a lot of time. That's the longest time that I've taken off from working in probably about 3 years. I was really focused on taking the time off. Myself and Safik, we went over to Sicily and we just camped out there for 2 weeks. Ate a lot of food, sat out in the sun, looked at some mountains, some beautiful mountains at that, and just had a great time. Going away was kind of weird, and I'm not going to lie. It took me a little bit of time to get used to it when I was over there. I think, switching your environment like that when you go on holidays, especially for me, because I think my work isn't necessarily associated to an office. And I think if you work remotely or if you work for yourself, you can probably relate to this quite a bit. My work is wherever I am. I can work if I just have my phone and an internet connection. I can actually work if I don't even have an internet connection. So naturally, as much as I was away for 2 weeks, I still had to do a little bit of work, which is absolutely fine because I think I'd lose my mind if I didn't. But it's an interesting one because you kind of have to figure out a way to separate yourself entirely from the work because, as I said, you can work anywhere, so why don't you just work when you're in Sicily, is what my brain was telling me. And it took me about 3 days until I was adjusted and thinking to myself that, okay, I'm here now and this is where I am. So if you're going on holidays and you struggle with that sort of shit of switching off, what worked super well for me was going for a lot of walks, going for a run, having some form of routine in place. So when I got up in the morning, I knew I would go outside, sit in the sun, I'd grab a little coffee after about 30-40 minutes, get my brain waking up a little bit, and then I might go, when we stayed in the second place, there's a little doggy that I could go and visit every morning. So I would get up, go to the dog, then I'd chop some fresh fruit, and I'd have a fruit and yogurt bowl. Life was good. Life still is good. But build yourself a little routine and help your brain adjust to your new environment. Anyways, alas, I was gone for 2 weeks, so I recorded 2 episodes. One of those episodes was one that I was actually pretty proud of. It was the episode about the leaving cert. Just because my little bro was doing his leaving cert, he's actually sitting it right now. I believe he had French today, so I hope that didn't go too badly. French is a absolute bitch of a subject from my memory. But yeah, the pod was super fun to record because it was really shit that I'm passionate about. Again, I'll say it briefly. I'm not going to go down that route. If you want to listen to an episode about the leaving cert, last week's episode is the one for you. But yeah, the leaving cert is absolutely broken. It's a stupid system and it needs to be fixed. And as I said last week, I don't have the answers. I'm just the dude that's shouting opinions down the camera on the internet and uploading it for my own benefit. Well, hopefully for the benefit of somebody else as well that can maybe relate to it in some way. I know if I saw it when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it. Talking about content, people. Obviously, if you don't know, I run a video production company in Ireland where we create social media content for brands, connecting the brands with the customers and vice versa. So I know a lot about content. I spend a lot of time researching content and I spend a lot of time in my day just looking at content. So I want to talk about why I think content and social media content is so important. Because I feel like I've come on a lot of the times on these episodes and I've bashed social media content and I've been like, this is stupid, social media ruins your brain. And it does. And that's fine, So does alcohol. People enjoy to have a drink every once in a while. So, maybe I'm just being a little bit of a hater when it comes to social media. And don't get me wrong, I actually do love socials. It's changed my life and it's continuing to change my life. It's a brand new industry, I think I first heard about TikTok when the big C word came around town. C word being COVID. When that started getting thrown around, and that was cool. Back when that happened, TikTok took off, and I remember posting a couple of videos and getting views, and I was like, this is crazy. You can't do this on Instagram. But my point being is that it's new. It's still a fresh piece of software that we're just basically being test dummies on. Obviously, it's not an experiment anymore. They clearly know what they're doing. But it's TikTok in particular, out of all of the social platforms, is the scariest to me because the way that it's designed It's so addictive. Like out of all the social media platforms, TikTok is the one that I demonize in my head the most. Although it has the highest ROI for a lot of people, like people go viral on TikTok all the time. It's changed so many creators' lives. For me, it's the scariest one because it's so volatile. The design of the app in and of itself, this infinite scroll, like that was new. That had never been done before. Like TikTok was the first person to do that, you know? Even when you think of Google searches, when you search on Google, you can only scroll down so far before you have to switch to the next page. And then in that switch, it loads. And on Instagram, you could continue to scroll and scroll and scroll, but it wasn't showing you constant information and constant entertainment. There's a post, and then it would have a blank space filled with a caption, some comments. You'd continue to scroll. But TikTok was the first platform that ever invented video on screen 24/7. Like if you open your TikTok and you just scroll for 24 hours, you'll constantly be hit with waves of entertainment. That's absolutely amazing, but that's also not good for your brain. So I think when I come on and make a bullish statement like I don't like social media, I need to be more specific and speak specifically to the addictive nature of TikTok. It's very addictive and it could fry your brain. So be careful if you're using it. At the same time, if you're a creator, you should be using it because it has such a big upside for discovery. Like it's better than any other platform that I can see at the moment. But talking about TikTok, everyone talks about TikTok and everybody loves TikTok. TikTok. Shout out to Kesha. I want to talk about live streaming because I think live streaming content and live streaming content creators are already the new wave, but I think in like the next couple of years, it's just going to continue to get bigger. I'm seeing more people pop up streaming everywhere, and creators that used to be big on YouTube have now pivoted to live streaming because that's obviously where the new wave is, which is really mad for me to try and understand because with live streaming, you only benefit if people are sitting and watching you live. So that means that every second of your live stream has to be entertaining because you're competing with the likes of TikTok and YouTube, these platforms that people are creating the most engaging and high impact videos because they're able to record hours of footage and chop it down into these amazing little bite-sized pieces. Twitch streamers and Rumble and Kick streamers are literally sitting in front of a camera if it's like a in I don't know, setup stream, or if it's like a what's it called, IRL stream where they're literally going about doing shit. Like, let's take first of all Kai Cenat. The dude's an absolute legend, and I say that and I don't know him, but I would love to know him. He's so fucking amazing at what he does. It's mind blowing to me. Like in terms of entertainment, constantly being funny and creating highlight moments every time he comes on camera. Like that is a genuine skill, and not everybody can do that. I just saw that he did a stream with Kevin Hart, which I think he broke records for himself, but he did another stream with Kevin Hart and with Drewski. Both, obviously, you know who Kevin Hart is, and Drewski, I'm sure you know who Drewski is too. But he does these sleepover streams where he'll basically have guests on and they sleep over at the house and they'll just leave the camera on for the entirety. So you can imagine that could get pretty boring. He has figured out a way to make 9 hours of entertainment, like 9 hours of footage entertaining. There's no pauses. There's no dead space in those 9 hours. Every single moment he's on camera is fucking funny. And that is a talent. He can do that when he's by himself, and he can do it when there's people in the room. So naturally, you bring in somebody like Kevin Hart, it's going to bring a huge, huge pull, which it did. Like, I looked at some of the stats from the last stream he did with Kevin Hart. I think he had 660,000 people watching at its peak. Like that's so many fucking people. Like think about that's live viewers. So like when you see videos that premiere, sorry about that. When the videos premiere on YouTube, the idea is that you get your audience and you get your fan base all watching the video at the same time so you can comment and interact with them, which is cool. Obviously, YouTube has its live streaming purpose or features too. But 660,000 people. I can't even conceptualize how many people that is. Like, I think there's like 20 people maybe that watched this podcast episode. And to me, that feels like a room full of people. Like if there was 20 people in this room, it would be full. He has 660,000 people watching him. It's insane. And these are all live viewers. So that means 660,000 people in the world are all watching him in that moment. It's not edited. It's not glamorized and made to look fantastic after the fact. It's live. Everything that he does on camera in those moments, they're gonna, like 660,000 people can see. And they just are, it's crazy because obviously they're behind a camera, so it doesn't feel like that, but you see they've got a chat so they can see everything coming through. I don't know why I'm explaining it to you like you're a boomer. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've heard of live streaming content before. But to me, it's just mind-blowing. Like, I think we've seen live TV and traditional entertainment, which oftentimes was live, whether it's the news, football games, sports games. Like UFC is an exception. I think UFC figured out a way to capitalize on social media and drive traffic back to the live sport. Obviously, Conor McGregor going into the sport years and years ago brought so many more eyes to it, but Dana White has absolutely killed the game, and he's just figured out a way to get everybody looking at UFC. Like, I think everyone in the world knows about UFC now. Like, how long ago, like less probably than 20 years, very few people knew about UFC. He's completely blown up that sport. And obviously, again, credit to Mr. McGregor. When he was in the sport and he was doing his thing and he was a cool dude, he brought so many eyes to it. But it's pretty crazy. And I think the reason I'm so obsessed with this live streaming content is because it's like the new wave. It's the new form of vlogging. Like Kai Cenat gets 660,000 viewers watching his stream at one time. That's a 9-hour stream. So I saw apparently it did like 5.5 million views, just that stream, or 5.5 million hours worth of watch time was generated from that stream. Like, when you're talking about making a YouTube video to get 5.5 million like hours of watch time, like that means the video has to realistically do, I don't know. I don't even know how to break that down. Sorry, I'm not very good at maths. Should have brought a statistical analytic on here with me. Statistical analyst would be a better way to say that. But like that's, again, insane. That's 5.5 million hours that people watched that one stream. So, like, I think part of the reason that these creators are becoming so fucking successful is because they're getting 5.5 million hours of watch time. Bear in mind, this is like an exceptionally high performing stream because he had Kevin Hart and Drewski on. But from an advertising perspective, like if you get your product on there, think of how many people are going to see it. I don't even know if Kai does ads or if it just purely because he works with Twitch that he gets commission based on that. And obviously they have their subs. I think he had like 150,000 subs. And I don't know, I think the minimum amount to sub on Twitch is $5. I could be wrong. I don't actually use Twitch. But this furthers on my point. I've never once used Twitch. Never watched a stream on Twitch because I can't understand how would it be entertaining? Yet, obviously it is. There are 660,000 people watching this at a point in time. And it's where all of the celebs are going too. Kevin Hart was one of them, but like Kai Cenat has worked with so many rappers when they're doing album rollouts or single rollouts, they'll go onto his fucking show because he's the new show. It's no more like Saturday Night Live. Obviously, it's always going to have the prestige and almost like the tick box factor that if you make it on there, you've made it. But these streamers are independent artists that are bringing such big platforms to artists and to people that are looking to promote a product, which could obviously be detrimental. But at the same time, in this sense, like, if I was a rapper and I was dropping an album, I'd want to go on here. You know, you see the adverse of that when it doesn't go right, when you see what happened with Playboi Carti and Aiden Ross. Apparently he paid him like close to $2 million to show up for a stream for like 30 minutes. I think he paid him $1 million in the end, but he ended up staying on screen for like maybe 5 minutes and said nothing and bounced. So like that's when it goes too far to the one side. Like these people are taking advantage of these kids, but I say kids like they're fucking younger than me. I think Kai's like 25, 26. But I'm just so impressed, man. It's so fucking cool to see like these people making content like this. And again, in a roundabout way, to go back to my point about I don't watch Twitch, yet I'm so aware of this content, is because it's all being clipped. This is exactly what happened with Sketch. Hey brother, it's Thursday. Shout out Sketch. This is how he blew up, was because there were people that were actually clipping him, not working for him, not getting paid to do anything, They were just finding his content so fucking funny that they decided to make some TikToks and post them, because he wasn't on TikTok. I think he was probably posting videos on TikTok, but like he wasn't clipping properly. He wasn't taking the highlights. He was probably just showing what he thought was funny, which sometimes you need an outside perspective. And he told the story on a podcast with Bradley Martin. And essentially what happened was there was a guy that was in the military. They're not allowed something in the military. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was phones or if they're just not allowed access to social media. So one guy was in the military and he decided to clip parts of Sketch's stream, like just like screen record them, and he was showing them to his friends in wherever they were. I don't know. Obviously, I'm very undereducated on military terms, but he showed them to his friends, and I think the gist was the guys were like, "This is so funny, you should put it on TikTok." He went home, wherever he went to post it on TikTok. I don't know how this worked because they're not allowed. Anyways, he posted them on TikTok, and that started to blow Sketch up. So then people like me, people like you, people that don't watch streams but are on social media started seeing all these clips, and we were like, "This guy's fucking hilarious." So he continued to clip them, and then other people started to clip them too, because these people are all benefiting from Sketch and benefiting from Kai and benefiting from Aiden Ross and all the other streamers, because they're basically getting monetized, because you get monetized on these platforms based on how many people you have following you and how many hours of watch time you generate. I don't know exactly what the rules are on TikTok and on Instagram, but that's how it works on YouTube. You have to have like 1,000 subscribers and X amount of hours of watch time. So these people that are clipping these guys are getting crazy fucking views, so then they can monetize a channel. And then the next step there, if you're looking for a way to make some money, is if you just go and watch all of these people, watch Kai, watch Aiden, watch Sketch, watch Jinxie, watch all these people that are creating like live stream content, you have 9 hours worth of footage to fucking clip. 9 hours. So if you were to just download even an hour of that stream, go to the highlight moments you can probably see on Twitch or on YouTube, the parts that have been most viewed, screen record it, download it, put some GTA gameplay on the bottom where you see the cars going down the ramp, and just start uploading that to a TikTok account, you're going to get crazy views. You're going to get crazy views. You're going to get loads of followers. And the thing is, you're not even making the content. You're just relying on these guys to keep going, and they definitely will keep going. They're still so early on. So here you go. There's a little way if you want to make some side money. Identify some of the top performers on YouTube, on Twitch, on Kick, screen record their content, add some GTA gameplay on the bottom where you see the cars rolling down the hill, and just start uploading it to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And soon enough, you'll start getting a couple bags rolling in. I don't think you can actually monetize TikTok in Ireland, but you can YouTube. So you hear these crazy stories of people that just have YouTube channels that are making like 10, 20K a month just entirely clipping people. So there you go. There's a piece of advice. If I had more time and I wanted to do that, that would be a nice way to make some side money. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I think there's a huge wave on live entertainment, and I think these creators are going to control it because, one, they're uncensored. They can do what the fuck they want. They're getting all the leverage, and it's so much more seamless. There's no big bullshit productions where you go in, you're in the dressing room for an hour, you get your makeup done, you get blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm belittling the production that goes into television, just personally because I don't think it's where the eyes are at anymore. But these guys have figured out a way to make live entertainment funny again and cool again. So, yeah. And Kill Tony, holy shit, I forgot to talk about this. Kill Tony, dog. If you don't know what Kill Tony is, it's a show that's, I think it's entirely, I don't know who owns it essentially. I know they're in talks with Netflix right now, but it's hosted by Tony Hinchcliffe is a better way to put it, and I think it's co-hosted by Brian Redban. Brian Redban he owns a podcast studio. He was like one of the early dogs that helped produce Rogan's podcast. He's worked with so many people in that industry, in that comedians circle. But Kill Tony is essentially a show where they have random people in the audience come up and perform a minute of comedy, and the thing is just fucking blown up. And it's awesome to see because they've been doing it for so long. Like, I think they're in their 600th episode or something. So you can imagine that's a pretty long time to be doing it. And it takes the format of a podcast. So they have a panel where they've got Tony Hinchcliffe, who hosts the show, Brian Redban, who's producing it by his side. And then they've started to get guests in. So they have guests like Post Malone on. You've probably seen the clips because it's clipped again everywhere. And it's not clipped by Kill Tony. It's clipped by like random accounts. And these clips get like millions of views because comedy is entertainment at the rawest form. You're watching people on stage whose entire job is to entertain you. So people are clipping these like intensely entertaining moments and they're just uploading them on socials everywhere, and they're getting crazy fucking views. And it's awesome because as well, Kill Tony is just purely like, it's like raw comedy, because you're seeing people that maybe have been doing stand-up for a day. You're seeing people who have been doing stand-up for a couple of years, and they get on stage and all of a sudden their life has changed because they have a crazy 1-minute set. Everybody loves them. And then they can start actually being a comedian because they've got this huge platform. It's pretty awesome. Like, I think they sold out the Kia Forum in LA, was their last big show, and they had Tim Dillon, Post Malone, who else was on the panel? Dr. Phil, which is Adam Ray, and he does this character for Dr. Phil, which is just awesome. I love it. I'm very passionate about this stuff, if you can't tell. But I think it's great because they're also leaning back into they're just out there, and I love it. They just say what they think. It's hilarious. It's like a good, entertaining show from beginning to end. And again, as I said, you can see that Netflix is thinking this is something they'd like to do. You can even see them pushing into the live stream world, where they were going to do the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. I don't know if that's still going ahead. I saw things that it wasn't, but I think that was exclusively on Netflix. So like, Netflix are seeing that this live form of content is becoming the thing. They want to get involved with it. I know the production company that does UFC did the live stream for the Kia Forum show for Kill Tony. So like, they're obviously trying to level this up too. And it's awesome. These are just independent artists who are making really good shit. And because of the beauty of social media, they're just getting the attention they deserve. And yeah, Kill Tony's absolutely awesome. If you haven't watched it, go watch some clips that people have made and are getting paid for, because again, it's like however long they do. I think the Kia Forum show was like 3 hours, 4 hours, but yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. So I think live streaming content is really going to be a huge thing in the next couple of years. And if you can figure out how to facilitate it and provide it as a service for people, if somebody's an entertaining person and you know them and you think they do well on camera, just make them start a live stream and just start, because it's something that I'd be interested in doing, but I'm just not the type of person that would do well being on camera for that long, I don't think. But maybe in a year or 2 years, I'll try it. But anyways, more on content. As I said, live streaming is such a big wave at the moment, and hopefully I've marked my spot in the sand saying that it is now, in case it gets super big and I can say that I was right and my ego will be inflated. In terms of the YouTube world, someone that I've seen absolutely blow up, he's not super huge yet, but he will be, is Daniel Dallin. I think that's how you say his surname, Daniel Dallin. He's this dude who has just started creating really nice aesthetic vlogs. And it sounds super simple, but I think YouTube really shifted away from this because the whole Mr. Beast era came in, where everybody started trying to make these similar style videos, where again, everything was like hyper entertainment. From the moment you click on the video to the moment you exit, it's almost like 17, 20 TikTok videos compressed into a YouTube video, you know? Like Mr. Beast is like blowing up cars, crushing trains, dropping millions of dollars into homes. It's like, that content is just sheer dopamine. But this guy, Daniel Dallin, I've seen him, he's lifted, like his numbers are just steadily growing, but they're growing a lot. Like I think when I first started watching him, he had 30K and now he's on like 60K, and that was probably a month ago that I started viewing him. So his content is pretty cool. And some of it's a bit like whatevs, but I think that's part of it. You know, he's just recording his days and he's just giving tips. It's strictly, well, it's not strictly, but it's pretty much focused on like business. And, you know, he's running obviously a very successful company, something to do with, what's the correct word, Dylan? Damn it. I think he's just pretty much connecting suppliers with distributors in a more streamlined and glorified way versus somebody going to Alibaba or going to any of those major distributors in China. All of his business seems to take place in China. And that was the thing with the titles, was like POV, you're a 26-year-old entrepreneur doing business in China. And people were watching it, and he speaks fluent Mandarin. He's Dutch originally, and he also has perfect English. So the guy's obviously very intelligent, and he knows what he's doing. But he's just documenting himself building a business, and it's great content. Again, super aesthetic. He's obviously making a lot of money, so it's hard to compete with that if you're an underdog. You don't have the setup, and you don't have the resources to put towards content creation. But I think the most interesting thing is that it's a real big indicator that there's a lot of interest coming back to long form content, you know, like he's getting like 50, 60K views per video on YouTube, which is pretty impressive, especially the fact that he hasn't been doing this for very long. I think he said he started around the start of the year. He doesn't have that many vlogs, but go check him out if you haven't already. Great content, a lot of valuable insights in there too. And yeah, it's cool because I think long form content is really making a push again. And I love to see it because I'm a YouTube stan. I love making YouTube videos. I love watching YouTube videos, and especially the longer ones. I just think they're more value packed, and it's cool to be able to see someone in a more relaxed format, I would say. But speaking of relaxed, I need to go to the toilet. BRB. Thank you for holding on for me. I'm back from the toilet. A little bit embarrassing to have to go in the middle of an episode. You know, Joe Rogan does episodes for 3 hours, and he can hold himself for that long. So clearly, I am not a professional and need to put in some more reps. But we're closing in on episode 10, which is awesome. That was my micro goal with the podcast, was to hit episodes, you know, hit double digits. I've never done that before. If you're a new viewer and you've stayed this long, my first podcast was called Coffee Talk, not Off the Rip. That's what we're listening to right now, people. Coffee Talk, and it was effectively me having a not even a quarter life crisis, like a 10th life crisis. That's also not correct. Anyways, moving on, because I'm talking bullshit. But I was just sat in my room talking to the camera, super raw, super authentic, and it was fun. I loved it, and I think that's why I'm back doing it now, because I remember it was something that I did, and I was really proud of doing. It just felt like I was making something good, which this whole episode is about. I think, you know, looking at all these trends and seeing these people gaining such huge audiences through social media really does, again, double down on the importance of social media. And I do think everybody in the world should focus on creating content of some kind. That mightn't be for social media, it might be for yourself, but I think every single person in the world would love to have some form of an archive of videos of themselves or photos of their life when they get to the age that they want to reminisce, you know? So when I say everybody should make content, that's more so what I mean. Like, bring a little camera around with you, just use your phone, take videos, take photos, compile them somewhere, and have like organized storage so that you can go back and check on them. It's funny because coming back from holidays, you like, for me at least, I expect to be like super refreshed, and I do feel a lot more like coherent and a little bit more dialed in my way of thinking, but it does take a little bit of time to get the brain back into the swing of things. And as I said at the start of the episode, I really made an effort to like switch off when we were in Sicily, and it was absolutely amazing. You know, I forget how big the world is until I travel, and I travel a lot for work now, which is even crazy to say. It was something I always wanted to do. It was on my bucket list not bucket list, but like my goals for the year last year was to like travel for work, and I did it last year, but now I'm like traveling to different cities every month, which is pretty freaking cool. But yeah, and that's why I'm starting to try and document a little bit more. Like, I'm starting to try and do a couple vlog style videos, hopefully in the pipeline, because I just think I want to be able to look back when I'm older as much as I want to look at these podcast episodes. And it even helps me think sometimes because I'm able to get my thoughts out and reflect on them a little bit more. And I'm conscious sometimes that mightn't be the most entertaining form of content. Like, I don't think I'm a very funny person, you know, and I'm definitely not of the caliber that I could be funny by myself. You know, it's easier to be funny when there's somebody else in the room. But then I look at the likes of Kai, and that's why he's such a talent, because he can just have the camera on himself by himself, and he's fucking hilarious. And a lot of people are, you know, like some of the goats like Theo Von. Man, I could just listen to him on his own on a podcast all the time. He's hilarious. Tim Dillon, Bobby Lee. I know Bobby Lee doesn't do any solo shows, but these people are just hilarious. They're just fantastic entertainers, and it takes a lot of work. And I think that's something that I'm learning the more I do these episodes, is that I have to be more prepared. And even this episode, and I'm sorry if you're watching this and it felt a bit chaotic, because I feel like it's a running consistency throughout all the episodes, and it's something I kind of want to change. Like, I want to have a little bit more structure. And again, the overarching goal with the content inside of Off the Rip is to give something. Like, it might just be something that sparks a little bit of thought, or it might be something that you hear from a fresher perspective. My perspective mightn't be right, and it's heavily opinionated, but it might be enough to make you think about something differently. And if that's the case when you listen to these episodes, then I'll be a more fulfilled person. So I think that's why, again, I'm so adamant on doing the podcast. It's like sometimes doesn't really feel like it's entirely the right thing to do, but I think that's a good sign in and of itself because I'm trying something new. And I'm 23. I want to be able to look back on the last couple of years and make sure that I put as much effort into as many different things as possible. I was reading Rick Rubin's book when I was on Halls, and he talks about, like planting multiple seeds. It's not always you don't always just plant one seed and cross your fingers and hope that it grows. You want to have different things. For me, it might be one seed might be the gym, another seed might be running, one seed might be eating healthy, one seed's writing, one seed's working, one seed's the podcast, all these different things. And you want to make sure you try and nurture them all, and you get to this phase where you can see one of them is growing stronger and healthier than the other seeds that you've planted, and that's an indicator that you should exist and sit with that one for a little while. So I'm at this point where I'm trying to plant multiple seeds and I'm trying to test out new things because, again, I'm only young once, and I've got the energy and I feel like I have the ideas and the thoughts that I would like to convey on these episodes. But the funny thing is, on that fact, I was listening to Dan Coe coming home from holidays on the plane, and he talks about, building an audience, and a lot of people, probably similar to myself, we think we have these great ideas and we think we have these fantastic opinions, but we don't understand how to package them because we don't have the experience. And I'm definitely in that boat, I'm 8 episodes in, and I look back on the first episode to now, it's definitely getting better, but it's nowhere near where I know I can bring it to. And I think that's the excitement factor too, because I'm like, holy shit, what could I do? Give it another year, give it another 6 months. This could be a completely different show. Already it feels too half-assed for me because I have to set the camera up differently every time because I just don't have a fixed camera and a fixed tripod to film this. So every time I come in, I'm using my camera every day for shoots. So I have to rebuild the setup, and then it makes it feel like it's not as official. And I'm also conscious of having guests in the office because I don't really have it laid out for a podcast conversation. But then I'm getting too worried about the specifics. Who gives a fuck? If the content is good, it will do well. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I look at some of Shane Gillis's podcast episodes sometimes, and I'm like, bruh, they're just sat on a couch with one wide angle. That's it. And the wide angle itself looks like an iPhone 8. Content's great, though. Gets crazy views because they're just great at what they do. So maybe it's not always about the production side of things. But yeah, I do this a lot too. I ramble, man, and it's just who I am. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the end of the world. Sometimes I wish I could be a little bit more concise, and I have had many people in my life tell me to talk less. But you know what? I'm allowed to talk as much as I want on this show because there's also nobody else in the room, so I can just go for it off the rip. Which is kind of funny. When I remember recording the first podcast, the very first episode I recorded of Off the Rip, I think it was in March, and I remember I couldn't even get to the 15-minute mark. It was horrible. I never wanted it to see the light of day. And then I recorded the second one, which was actually the first episode then, and it was equally as bad, but I just had to do it because if I didn't start then, it wouldn't be where it is now, and it won't be where it will be in a few years. And I say that in every episode because I do absolutely believe that I'm going to make this into a fantastic podcast. I'm going to have cool guests on, and hopefully one day I'll be able to speak with Theo Vaughn on a podcast because that would be fucking awesome. But I have no reason right now for him to ever speak to me. So that's where I need to make some changes and get better at anything that I'm doing. Water the seeds. Shout out to Rick Rubin. I've called out a lot of people in this episode, and it's made me feel like it's full of something. I don't know what it's full of, but yeah. Maybe that's all I have for you today. Talking about myself real quick. I'm back from holidays, trying to get myself back into the swing of things. This podcast has been recorded later than usual. Normally I record them in the afternoon kind of time or in the morning, but we're recording this one at times in now. It's 6:00. It's not too bad, but I've still to go to the gym, put on some size, and I've to drive myself home, which will take a little bit of time too. And I've also to eat, and I've an early shoot tomorrow, so I'm just conscious. And I've to do work, to do more work, bro. But that's part of the game. Okay, I don't know how long this episode's been because I don't have a way to see the time code. It's messed. Well, it's not messed up on my FX3, but it's just it shows it differently to me, and I've never put in the time to figure out how to read it. That's a stupid thing to do. But that's that. Okay, people. Thanks for joining me once again. I love and appreciate all of you, unless you're a murderer, and that's all I have for you. Bye. Love you. Bye.